the tenacity and resiliency that Georgia showed in winning that game, that's hard to coach. That was Nick Saban, former Alabama head coach. Ryan Curley talking about what Georgia did over the weekend before at Tennessee. He said that over the weekend on game day. And, we're almost through the first month of the season. And the way that Georgia has played, particularly at Neyland, there's been a fair amount of resiliency there, and it's gotten them to this point. Can they continue that this weekend? That's my question.
Yeah, there's probably no one better to talk about that than Nick Saban. But I think that in terms of projecting Georgia for the whole season or projecting any team, knowing that you can win those tough battles, you can win those tough battles on the road, that it doesn't matter if you're down, your quarterback looks comfortable, right? I think that was one of the biggest parts is Gunnar Stockton didn't really look phased by what he was dealing with 2 weekends ago. So I think he hit it, whatever the phrase is, hit it right on the nose. I'm not good at these phrases anymore, but Georgia is comfortable in uncomfortable situations. I think that you see it time and time again in this program. The Ohio State game in 22, Missouri 22, Auburn 23, just over and over again. You see them win these games. You almost feel like they just shouldn't win. Kirby said Tennessee deserved to win. I mean, maybe, but I think the team that wins typically deserves to win. Tennessee should not have allowed Georgia to get back into that game. Tennessee could have stopped Georgia on the ground. Tennessee could have made that field goal. They could have stopped Georgia on fourth down. There were so many little things, and I think that kind of gets to Nick Saban's point. But Georgia seems to always be comfortable in really uncomfortable situations, and it's just why you lean the dogs in these big games. That's why in our picks video, you lean the dogs in these big games, even if it is against Alabama.
Yeah, I think a big reason why they won that game in that fashion against Tennessee was because the work they did in the offseason, coming together and connecting and believing in one another. And I'll say this, when I'm watching some of the NFL football right now, there's just some bad body language out there from professionals making a lot of money, and a lot of them are not happy with what's going on in their respective teams. But you didn't see a whole lot of that during Tennessee. And, there's not a lot of teams who get backed up into a corner late in a ball game and they know, okay, we have to get this done right now and make these plays in every fashion of the game. And Georgia was able to do that late in the fourth quarter and in overtime. And it goes back to the work that they do together in the offseason. And that's how Kirby pushes them with the skull sessions. It's the little things. It's all the details that they do behind the scenes that no one talks about. Then with the game on the line, fourth quarter in Neyland Stadium, that's where all that work kind of pays off. And it's tough to coach tenacity into a team and into players. You either have it and you don't. And this team showed that they do have a lot of fight and they can make plays with the game on the line and when their back's against the wall. Not a lot of teams can do that, and we learned that Georgia can early in the season. In fact, game 3. So I do think they have the potential to do that again. Maybe it's this weekend or any other time they face adversity this season, because it's going to happen again. But they sure took advantage of that up in Knoxville.
How would your organization benefit from consistently perfect hires like Matt and Ryan every time? Sales Hatch gets what makes salespeople tick and helps you understand those rare gems that will supercharge revenue growth. If there's anything Dawg Post is about, it's about revenue growth, particularly supercharging it. Build sales teams that crush the quota. Sales Hatch. You can check them out. The link is down, the QR code, and the link is down below. We'll have more talk about Sales Hatch as time goes on, sort of getting into more of the details of what they do. But they help people. They help businesses find very good solutions. I think the thing that when you start talking about building a program, you can't build DNA. You have DNA. And I think at Georgia, there's a particular DNA that exists. You can feel. Feeling it is one thing. I mean, I see it and hear it on the sideline. It's easy to see it, 5 feet from you or sometimes 50 yards from you. They don't get down. They're good with it, and they understand what they have to do to win or even stay in games. I mean, there was a moment where Tennessee could have blown that thing wide open, and they didn't, Ryan. I mean, they didn't put them away, like you said. Did they deserve to win? I don't think so. Tennessee made plays to win. They didn't win. Now, why? I mean, what happened there? And Georgia certainly made plays that they deserved to win. I mean, I thought Georgia in the third quarter was about to, Imperial march Tennessee right down the field and in the game. And then I thought after they scored on that 4th and 6, it was very likely that they were going to get a 3 and out, get the punt, come down, and then, kick a field goal to win it. I thought that was what was going to happen. Tennessee converted on the 3rd and 6 and went flying down the field, missed the field goal. But in all those situations, Ryan, people talk about adversity and dealing with it. I would say Georgia twice this season has dealt with adversity. The way that they had to deal with it at Tennessee was obvious. The sort of mental anguish of playing at home and not playing well, that happened in the second game. They just didn't play well against Austin Peay, generally speaking. They won the game decisively, but it was not as decisive as it should have been. So when Nick talks about the tenacity, resiliency that Georgia showed is hard to coach, he's right. And you don't just do that. That has got to happen over months and years.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's interesting with Georgia is even if they're down, whether they're down or not, they just control portions of the game.
Yes.
And when they do, they just completely control it. And that could last for 1 quarter or 3 quarters. I think about Georgia, Alabama last year, right? They get blown out in the first half. They just got boat raced in the first half. And then they controlled the third quarter and almost the entirety of the fourth quarter. And in that short period of time, they get up, right? Against Georgia Tech last year. That was a sloppy game, and Tech was just kind of grinding it out on them for most of the time. When did Georgia start controlling the game? Like 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, maybe something like that. But in that short period of time where they controlled it, they completely controlled it. They come back, tie it. Georgia controlled a large majority of the second half. They controlled a good bit of the second quarter, if not the whole thing, against Tennessee. Part of that is the resilience, right? They take a punch or they take a couple punches and then respond and counter in a really strong way. But I think that kind of stems together here is they just kind of figure out what they need to do and how to do it. A lot of that comes from Kirby and the coaching staff. But if Georgia controls a large portion of the game on Saturday, it'll probably be pretty similar.
Yeah, what do you say after the game? There's no flinch in this team. I thought that was a really good quote because there were several times where, they're 1 play away or 2 plays away from this thing, going in the opposite direction. But my biggest takeaway was when it mattered most, no matter if it was offense, defense, special teams, or 4th and 6, and Gunner's got to put the game on his shoulders. They all stepped up and they practice it and they work hard at it. And they, are put in those positions during practice every week of, hey, game's on the line. This is where you have to get it done. And they do. And a lot of teams and a lot of players, don't thrive in that position. And we've seen Georgia do that in several games now. This wasn't just some one-off thing. They won in a crazier, different way. But even going back to the Georgia Tech game, like they looked dead towards the end of regulation. And they found a way to come back. And Dan Jackson was the one who saves the day with a big defensive play. It just seems like it's in the DNA. It's in their chemistry. This team's not rolling over. If you beat them, you earned it. And you deserve to beat them. Because they're never going to give up and they don't flinch. At least they didn't flinch in Knoxville. So it's a promising look for this team, especially with so many big games coming up. Anytime they get down, they know because they've done it before that they can always rally if there's enough time. So it's exactly what you want from your team if you're Kirby Smart.
I think Ryan's point exactly right, which is that there are moments in the game where they just straight up mow people over, and the mental toughness, resiliency, whatever you want to call it, it's not by accident. I tell my daughter all the time, this is not magic. You have to go do it. You have to get used to it. You have to be comfortable in uncomfortable spaces. It's got to be okay with you that there's chaos around you and you can still hit the free throw, make the pitch. If you buried your first serve and you're down 30-40 late in the third set, in a critical, you got to knock that ball in there. It's got to be a good serve, and you have to have confidence. They've got confidence in themselves, Ryan, and they don't tell the secrets of what they do, but I'll tell you one secret: they work. Like,
yeah, it seems like they're connected, right?
Sure,
and that was a huge thing in 2021, and they've got all these little quips and phrases that they go with each season, and they kind of change, but it's all roughly the same. It's about hard work, and it's about teamwork, right? Those are pretty much the two themes that all eat off the floor comes from, or better never rest. It all goes back to teamwork and hard work. This time it's fire, passion, energy, but all of it means the same thing. They just try to find, other programs do it, but they try to find unique ways to be connected as a team. And this team, no matter how far they go, seems pretty connected to me. And I think a lot of that really does have to do with Gunnar Stockton, and then part of that it starts with the quarterback, and they just couldn't speak higher of him than they do, right? Whether it be Zachariah Branch or Oscar Delp or Kobe Young or any of the defenders, really, they seem to just really be bought in. I think being bought into it matters a lot. Maybe Georgia wasn't as bought in 2024, right? Maybe that wasn't the case. I saw on social media the other day, I don't remember what the post was exactly, but it was something about the 2021 Georgia defense. And Keely Ringo commented on it. And he said, man, I really miss that team and just how bought in we all were to that one thing and just trying to be connected and winning as a team. I think that you sense a little bit of that this year. This team's not as good as that team. It could win the national championship and still be not as good as that team. But I think that element is certainly there. And that element is going to matter in a game where there is a mental aspect to it. There is certainly a mental hurdle that Georgia has to deal with Alabama at this point. We spoke to Oscar Delp earlier this week, and someone asked him kind of about that, not that directly, but I thought that he was just going to brush off the answer and say, look, it's another difficult game. But he did talk about how much it mattered that they beat Alabama and that they kind of right the wrong of that from last year. So I think that those things really go into it as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of leadership on the roster too, and it starts with the quarterback, obviously. But if you ask Kirby Smart about a player, you're not going to normally get what he does from a talent and skill set perspective. He wants to talk about their leadership and how they impact the teammates and everyone in that position group. And they've got a lot both on offense and on defense. And I think the players, not only did their play elevate as the game went along against Tennessee, but the leader stepped up and everyone rallied together. And again, when you have that on both sides of the ball, I think that's the makings of a really special team.
Well, and they've got really good special teams. That part doesn't need to be forgotten either. I mean, Pate Woodring has, talk about mental toughness, and he's really, really come a long way. Thorson, I mean, they're really good at all these things. They'll have to put it together against Alabama to win that game, but I don't think I would caution the notion that this game is the biggest game of the season, because it's not. It is certainly not the biggest game of the season. It's going to be September 27th when they play this game. September. So there's no big game that's going to be played in September. We can act like they are. I'm old enough to remember Florida State and Alabama kicking off the 17th season and it not mattering at all by October. So, but for Georgia, perhaps they need to clear this hurdle. I don't know. I think what they did against Tennessee was exceptional. And, again, what Nick Saban had to say, the tenacity and resiliency that Georgia showed in winning that game, that's hard to coach. Can they do that again this Saturday night? We'll see. We'll see you on Riding Home after that. Thanks for watching.